Good morning. This is my Zoom report for Chapter 1, Module 1, Thinking Critically. Our exam begins with number 1, complete the following puzzle. To complete this, I first just came up with what 3 numbers add up to 31. And I took the smallest number and added 2 consecutive numbers. Not consecutive, I'm sorry. 2 numbers with it. My work is shown on the back page. So to check to see if the other 4 numbers could work as the inside, I tried to do a diagram of each. I concluded that there were no other scenarios where those other numbers could fit inside the diagram and still add to equal 31. Excuse me. The only way that these numbers can change is being moved around that circle from left to right or top to bottom. But in all, that 10 plus 13 is equal to 11 plus 12. And that's the only way. With 8 added in, it can work, add to 31. Moving on to B, it says to study the sample diagram. So the sample diagram gives us all of those numbers, and concluding from that, it shows that the circle numbers, the numbers inside the circle, add to be the number in between those circles. So in the first square, it gives us 7. I subtracted the 7 from that 15, the middle number, and came out with 8. And then moving clockwise, I took 20 and I subtracted the 8 that I had already gotten, and I got 12. Again, 17 minus 12 that I've already gotten came up with 5. And then I had 12 and 7 already. I subtract 7 from 12 and came up with 5. And so that answer, that's the solution for that diagram. And on to the same scenario, you take what you already have and you subtract from the total to get your second circle number. On the third diagram, I began with that 15. I'm sorry, I began with the 8 minus 3. Came up with 5, and then I went clockwise around the circle again. But in that last circle, it shows that 12 minus 3 should be 9, but 15 minus 5 should be 10. So because those two numbers don't equal, you don't have a solution for this problem. And then again on 4, same scenario. I took what I had, subtracted what I had, and then went forward clockwise. And as long as all of those numbers in the circles added to become the middle number, I knew I was on the right track. On page 2, the question is 9 square tiles are laid out in a table. It says to sketch the possible figures. This is basically just a guessing game. You have to have 9 tiles. They all have to touch in one form or fashion on one side. And I just drew these out, calculated the sides, and so the smallest, the question is draw the different possible figures. Here are the different possible figures, and I determined that the least perimeter, is 12, and the most I could come up with was 20. On on question 3, how do you get from point A to point B? How many pathways are there? This is just the Palladium theory. I can't pronounce that, I'm sorry. And basically I just turned that rectangle into a triangle and applied that method. And it shows that you take one pathway here down to this pathway. I don't know if my mouse is picking this up or not, but the answer I came up with is that there are 20 different ways to get to point B. And then again, same type of scenario on B, but it shows different directions, and so you start with point C in all of your different pathways. Again, you can only go certain directions, and those arrows determine that. So if you just count, there's only one way by going C, A, B, and then E, or the second way is C, B to E. Third way is C to F to B to E, and then the fourth way is C to F to E. If you tried to go from C to F to D, that pathway only goes from E. So you can't get from D to E. So to determine that there's 4 pathways. On the number 4 from our test, I came up with the this is using a variable, and I came up with, if I can get to it, the equation 7 plus 3 equals 10. And so 15 minus 10 would be, 25 minus 10 would be 15, and then 15 minus 7 would give you your X answer of 8. And then on B, it was a little trickier, but if you come up with the equation, you have to come up with your 15. So 15 equals 1 plus Y is plus, and then so you're trying to find out these answers, but you're also trying to find Y. So you would say 1 plus Y, and that comes up with this answer. And then Y plus 2 comes up with this answer. So 15 equals 1 plus Y plus 2. And you've solved that with simple algebra, and you come up with 6. So 1 plus 6 equals 7, and 6 plus 2 equals 8, and 7 plus 8 equals 15. C was very hard for me, and I came up with, through trial and error, I came up with the answer by looking back at A and B, and I saw that the bottom row taken away from the top row, so 27, and I subtracted 2 and 9, I came up with 16. And then I divided that in half. And on all of these problems, it came up with the correct solution. So 15 minus 2 minus 1 would be 12. And divide that by 2 would be 6. And then 25 minus 7 minus 3 is 16. And I divided that, and it came up with 8. So on 27 minus 9 minus 2, my answer was, again, 16. And so I got 8 from that, and then I was able to solve for Z by adding 8 plus 2, and then came up with 17 by adding 8 plus 9. And so that's how I figured it out. That's my problem solving strategy. Okay, and then on question 4, what I did here was basically just went through and I put an X by everything I knew that this person could not be. So to begin with, Floyd is Josie's brother. So Floyd can't be Josie's husband. So I went down and put an X beside Josie and by Floyd for Josie's husband. And Josie and Gus dated, but Gus met his present wife. So Josie can't be married to Gus either. So I put an X there. And by process of elimination, if you put an X by this person and by this person, you can determine that Kitty is married to Will, Sarah is married to Floyd, Josie is married to David, and Anne is married to Gus. Number 6. Let me get my table here. Number 6. So the pattern shows 1 plus 1 equals 3. I'm sorry, 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. 1 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 equals 8. So I determined by trying to find a pattern in these, I saw that each time they were adding the second consecutive number, or that the number of this sequence. So 1, they were adding it 3 times. 2, they added it 3 times. 3, they added it 3 times. So once you determine that, you can come up with your dot sequence, and then also with that same scenario, if you're adding those numbers that you come up with, you can come up with a rectangle with 2 additional columns than rows per side. So that's my answer here. And then the equation I came up with for this was n times n plus 2. So if I was trying to find the 4th sequence that's not originally given, I would take, 4 times 4 plus 2. So 4 plus 2 is 6. So 4 times 6 is 24. And in this diagram here, I have 24 dots. So that's how I came up with that. Hopefully these are correct. Thank you for your time and have a great week.